Welcome to Faith and Freedom. For the next few minutes, we hope to inform, inspire, and encourage you as we discuss legal victories and challenges to your fundamental freedom and religious liberties. Faith and Freedom comes to you from Liberty Counsel, a civil liberties education and legal defense organization. Join us now as Matt Staver, founder and chairman of Liberty Counsel, explains the latest legal issues all across this country. In the courtrooms of America, Liberty Counsel is winning the battle for your constitutional freedom.
The United States Supreme Court just heard two cases regarding marriage. If the Supreme Court goes the wrong way, the result could be catastrophic. I am Matt Staver, founder and chairman of Liberty Counsel. Joining me is Matt Barber, vice president of Liberty Counsel Action. Matt, the Supreme Court heard two cases, one involving Proposition 8, the state constitutional marriage amendment from California, and the other, the federal definition of marriage that is contained in the Defense of Marriage Act, saying that marriage is the union of one man and one woman. Of course, I never am comfortable placing into the hands of 9 justices, only 5 of which you need for a majority, to have a ruling on a case like this that could literally rewrite the definition of marriage.
Yeah, this leaves us hoping and praying that probably one justice, probably Justice Kennedy, who is largely considered the swing vote, although there are no guarantees that any of the other justices will go any one way or another. It doesn't build a whole lot of confidence putting the entire fate of the institution of marriage in the hands of likely one justice, but even 9 flawed men and women, as we are all flawed, to have the opportunity to radically deconstruct the crucial institution of natural marriage.
Well, if the Supreme Court goes the wrong way and rules that there's somehow a constitutional right to same-sex marriage, it will become, in my view, an illegitimate arbiter of the rule of law. It will have lost its legitimacy in its entirety and will have just simply morphed into a political machine. And I think it's already in that particular situation anyway. And when I say that soberly, because this is a difficult situation to have the court, the highest court of the country, become a political institution that is captured just by however many votes you can get, irrespective of what the Constitution says. Their job is to interpret the Constitution, not to invent new social policy. So if the Supreme Court does go the wrong way, I think they have become an illegitimate arbiter of the rule of law. I think they've actually crossed that precipice in the Obamacare case, but I think this would be catastrophic because the implications would be very far-reaching.
This would be the nail in the coffin of the credibility of the United States Supreme Court, and with the court, that high court, representing the entire judicial system as the pinnacle, it would ultimately undermine our entire judiciary, and that is a frightening thing. It's just absurd, Matt, to imagine that these justices are actually considering that our founding fathers, they, as you point out rightly, they are charged with interpreting the United States Constitution. Our founding fathers, during the time of our founding, and beyond, well beyond, homosexual behavior, for instance, was called literally on the books, in the law, a crime against nature. To now somehow say that there's a constitutional right and that the government is going to put its official stamp of approval and sanctify or sanction a crime against nature, it's absolutely mind-boggling. It's surreal that we have reached this point in America's decline. If they go over the edge here, we're no longer declining. We're in a free fall.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You go back to George W. Bush and you realize how many people that he surrounded himself with in his administration that were not conservative in their value thinking. Ted Olson is one of those individuals. Ted was a Solicitor General. He was talked about as a possible nominee to the United States Supreme Court. I was always hoping he would never be nominated because I would have had to go against the stream to oppose him. I didn't think that he had a conservative, original intent view of the Constitution. He never got the opportunity to be nominated. Had he been nominated, he'd be one of the justices making the decision, and we know now where he stands. He's arguing the case against Proposition 8. You know, we had a spokesperson, Wallace, who recently came out, was a spokesperson for the Bush administration and talked about same-sex marriage, hoping that the Supreme Court would ultimately sanction it. We had George W. Bush put into office by the overwhelming majority of people who supported marriage in 2004. He got elected on the ticket of marriage, and yet 2005, instead of moving forward with a federal constitutional marriage amendment, Karl Rove and George W. Bush throttled back. They went into Social Security reform, which was a flop, and we never then used that huge opportunity in history. And now we're today, in 2013, on the precipice of this particular decision that will come out sometime by the end of June. And God forbid if the court goes the wrong way.
Well, Karl Rove recently even said that he could envision a Republican presidential nominee in 2016 supporting the institution, to the extent you call it, of counterfeit same-sex marriage. This is mind-boggling that we could have just completely flipped in this short a period of time. It seems to be in vogue, Matt, for these squishy, moderate Republicans to now get in line with this living, breathing view of the Constitution, that it is kind of whatever we say it is, depending on the changing times. And if that's what the Constitution is, Matt, then the Constitution is nothing at all. It's completely meaningless. We're a nation of men, no longer a nation of laws.
Yeah, we've lost our unique foundation if that's the case. You know, we have Justice John Roberts, Chief Justice John Roberts, sitting in the courtroom. He has a first cousin from San Francisco who's in a same-sex relationship with another woman who wants to have the opportunity to have a same-sex marriage. And sitting in the preferred seating where the Chief Justice's relatives and special guests are seated is his cousin. So we not only have Anthony Kennedy to be concerned about, because he's the one who actually authored the Lawrence versus Texas case that said that there was a constitutional right to engage in same-sex sodomy. We have Chief Justice John Roberts, who back then, by the way, during his confirmation hearings, it became known that he participated in helping moot the case that ultimately went to the Supreme Court, Lawrence versus Texas, that Kennedy decided. So he actually volunteered for a homosexual cause to moot this case that went up to the United States Supreme Court. So we don't know where the justices are going. We certainly want you to pray about the situation, because it is a serious point in American history where the Supreme Court, if it went the wrong way, would put the homosexual agenda on a direct collision course with the free exercise of religion.
And that's a couple fundamental issues. That's one of them, a big one. Religious liberty. This is officially, if the government approves of counterfeit same-sex marriage, that officially puts Judeo-Christian biblical beliefs relative to sexual morality and sexual behavior in the camp directly in competition and in counter to the government law, the rule of law. That is frightening. The persecution is inevitable at that point for anybody who's going to stand their ground.
Yeah, you have individuals who have to choose between their religious and moral values and their profession, their work. You have this issue that will transform what's taught in public school from kindergarten on. It'll be mandated across the country. If same-sex marriage is ultimately found to be invented to be part of the Constitution, then you'll have all the Defense of Marriage Acts around the country eventually overturned. You'll have the policy statement from the highest levels of government be that children don't need moms and dads. That's what same-sex marriage essentially is, as a policy matter. If same-sex marriage is the same as heterosexual marriage, opposite-sex marriage, if it's on the same level, has the same constitutional protection, then what you're saying as a policy matter, that children don't need moms and dads. Boys, you don't deserve or need a father. They're completely irrelevant. It might be a nice idea, but it's a completely irrelevant idea. And we know sociologically and just from our own intuition that is absolutely wrong.
It's a
and
lie.
Damaging.
Yeah, it's a lie. That would officially say that either mom or dad are throwaway, that we have throwaway parents. Matt, this is, we're talking about shaking Western civilization to the core if the court goes the wrong way with this decision. And I think you nailed it. You said we need to be in prayer. We need to be encouraging our listeners right now to be deeply in prayer. We cannot overstate the importance of this case, of these cases.
Well, give us a call at Liberty Counsel, 1-800-671-1776, or go to our website, lc.org, or our other website that consolidates all of our resources and various organizations together, libertycounsel.com, libertycounsel.com, or lc.org. Liberty Counsel, we filed 2 briefs before the United States Supreme Court, both in the Proposition 8 case and also in the Federal Defense of Marriage Act case. Both of them argued before the United States Supreme Court. We've been involved in litigating these issues for many years and have litigated about 50 cases involving the definition of marriage around the country. Go to Liberty Counsel's website for additional resources. I encourage you to order my book, Same-Sex Marriage, Putting Every Household at Risk. If someone asks you a question, why same-sex marriage should be allowed? Should the government get out of the same-sex marriage or marriage business in its entirety? How would same-sex marriage affect my marriage or my community? All of this and more is answered and addressed in my book, Same-Sex Marriage, Putting Every Household at Risk. I encourage you to order it. You can also ask for Judith Reisman's book, Sexual Sabotage, right there on the website, lc.org.
You have been listening to Faith and Freedom with Liberty Counsel. We hope that we have motivated you to stand up for your faith, family, and freedom. We can accomplish a lot when we work together. Get informed and get involved today. Sign up for our free monthly newsletter, The Liberator. We will send it out to you free of charge. Stay informed with our Liberty Alert email updates. Just click on the website at www.lc.org or call us at 1-800-671-1776. Tune in next time to learn more about your rights right here on Faith and Freedom.